Why, hello there, everybody. I am Riz. I'm going to turn up my volume a little bit. And welcome to another role play review. This time going over Legends Come to Life. Let's switch scenes here. There we are. So, hi. In this log, we have Kerwin and Natalia. The type is character development / combat, and the arc is Natalia and Chaos. Quick synopsis, which kind of tells us everything that we need to know about the log, is that Natalia agreed to let Kerwin meet Chaos, and both have independent entities within them, and the melding of the minds for shadowboxing is the way to meet. Introductions are made, and violence being the bonding of Saiyans commences. That is what happens in this log to the T. And normally when I was reading through this, I was like, is this gonna be a video or is it just gonna be I type something out? And I started typing something out and I got like 4 paragraphs in and I was like, you know what? We're just gonna do a video because I have a lot more to say around the piece than about the piece. The piece itself, the writing that's before us, yeah, that's pretty on the nose, right? These two agree to meet one another and kind of off rip, Kerwin is like in a bad mood, right? I don't know if he straight up dislikes Natalia from their previous meeting or whatever it is, but like in this log, he just really seems on edge, really testy. And Natalia is just Natalia. She is almost like a being of chaos where whatever happens, happens, and she's cool with it. She rolls with punches. But yeah, they exchange pleasantries, or lack thereof. And yeah, they do kind of like the Krillin and Gohan on the ship to Namek, like mind sparring. And that's how they communicate with each other's. I'm just going to call them alters. So Natalia has chaos, which, if you're reading this, is Natalia's purple text. And Natalia actually speaks in red. And I am going to talk about the coloring here a little bit later. And then we don't actually have a naming for Kerwin's entities because there are 3 of them. And from what I can remember about Kerwin's story leading up to this point, we never really got to see them until the last mistaken identity log, where we learned that because Kerwin got somebody else's DNA injected into him, like the souls of the people that was in that DNA sample was also transferred into them, and there's 3 of them, and all 3 of them are like communing with Kerwin. And so when they have the melding of the minds, it's kind of like if you could look inside Piccolo and then you can see that there's also Nail and Kami kind of standing off to the side. And so now there's 4 on Kerwin's side and 2 over here. So it's really like a 4v2. And because it's a mental fight, it does allow you guys to kind of be more kind of fantastical than if it were happening in the real world, which I don't mind. We are in a Dragon Ball Z setting, so kind of the more crazy it is within reason and within respects to the power structure that we have. I'm cool with it. Be creative with it. And that's pretty much it. Like, they have this spar. It does end kind of abruptly. This is actually a very short log. But what I liked about in the combat is that you guys not only use the RP energy to your advantage, and you use the system very well to kind of make it more even and more balanced, and to kind of explain, like, yep, I dodged this, and this is why, because I used 15 RP energy to dodge this and then to do this attack. Kerwin is taking a little bit of damage. Natalia takes a little bit of damage as well. But she mostly is using energy, and Kerwin kind of blasts through his energy pretty pretty well here, and it does, yeah. There he is, and there she is. Towards the end, where they're kind of showing off, and then they do show off their big, at the moment, their big attacks, and that's kind of where it just kind of big attacks, boom, and then it just kind of ends. But I guess what I have to say about the log and why I wanted to do a video and what I was kind of typing out, like what I said before with Kerwin, there is just so much color here that it makes it very hard to get through. I'm not gonna lie, when I first opened this log and I saw all the coloring, I'm like, yeah, not right now. I just can't. Look, let me show you here. This dark blue on this black, I have to actually highlight it to see what was being said. And I guess to start off with that, like, I would rather you guys just write it out, because, like, if you look at this paragraph, it's got white, dark blue, yellow for the golden, cyan, and then we get the one entity is speaking in gray, and then I think Kerwin is actually speaking in red. And it's just overly colored. Like, I get it that he has white hair to royal blue eyes and you can just say it. It's just too much color. You can just say it. It takes away from the actual log itself when I'm having to decipher all these coloring. Like, you can just tell me what it is. That's actually part of the beauty of roleplay, is just explaining what these colors. And if you're doing it this often, like the firehead saying, and again, we're back to Guy and eyes, and then this is purple. Like, you just don't have to color everything. And as far as both of you, because there's so many different people talking, Kerwin, I think it would really benefit you to name these entities. Because while I understand that the orange is for the old one, and like the mean one is gray, and I think there's one more that has its own color. I think if you just were to name them and then give it just basic quotes, like, what I like to do is find a color scheme that is usually quotes being colored something, and then some version of like either white, yellow, or gray. Something that's a little bit more easy on the eyes, especially when it's going to be in like a lot of text, to just show that, like, hey, this person speaks in this color quotation, this person speaks in this color quotations. Or if you are going to stick to this, give them more agency, give them more to do than just in the middle of something to just give us like a one-liner. Like, give us this, maybe like a green text of Kerwin responding, and then have the other person speak. So that way it's more of like their own individual post. Like, you kind of have to treat these guys as individual characters, which is really what Natalia does here. Chaos definitely feels like its own character. Sometimes I will say Chaos overshadows Natalia, because most of this talking and this interaction is all Chaos, right? This here, like anything that's dark purple, is all Chaos, and I do believe Natalia speaks in this red. So Natalia kind of finishes here where they say that they're ready, and then Chaos just takes over. And they don't really come back until here at the end, And it does kind of make me wonder who is the real character, who is the alter, and who is the person who's real here. And I think that not knowing right now is not actually a bad beat. I don't think that's a bad story narrative tool to kind of keep the reader wondering of like who's actually in control here. Now, the other thing I will say is that while you guys were interacting, I thought it was interesting that, you have people who have this I will say, people having personality disassociation, having alternate personalities dwelling inside them, hearing voices in their head, is a anime trope that a lot of people turn to. So after, I've been doing this for 20 some odd years, so I've seen it multiple times, and it does become less, I won't say less interesting, but it's less shock value when it's repeated over and over. However, seeing people's alters interact with other alters, I did think that was kind of interesting. I thought that this dynamic was kind of cool. Um, but again, I feel like the characters of Kerwin and Natalia kind of vanished and then the alters took over. Um, and there was kind of like this, like, I'm more crazy than you are, right? Which, you know, people who experience these kind of things, yeah, it can come down to that of like, yeah, I've gone through this. This is what I've been dealing with. Because while we, the readers, are introduced to this in a very recent log, for Kerwin, he's been dealing with this for, I think, like 15, almost 20 years. Um, maybe not that, because I don't think Kerwin's that old. I don't think Kerwin's like in his 30s. I think he's like mid, maybe early 20s. So about 10 years, we'll say, he's been dealing with this. And, you know, the backstory of Natalia is that she is hundreds. I think Natalia is like 1,000 years old from like cryo sleep, because she was around before Planet Vegeta was actually destroyed. So technically she's super old, and she even says that, like, yeah, I'm not a kid, even though I have the body of one, kind of like an Aang and the Last Airbender kind of ordeal, where, you know, you retained your youth, but you've been locked away and sealed away in cryo sleep. But yeah, we kind of get this meeting, and the spar is a good spar. I graded this one with a couple of reds, because while they didn't physically fight, you know, the mental fortitude to enter into the spar, and you guys did do a good job. I didn't want to gyp you by not giving you any reds. You did progress your story. You did show character growth through it. So yeah, I tossed some reds out here for it. It's just, all in all, I think for anybody else who might be watching this and wondering, like, you know, what can I take away from this? Definitely read through the log, get familiar with the character. But if you guys are going to have these kind of, you know, personality disassociations, these split personalities, definitely take time to let the character actually breathe, right? Like, don't make the disorder the character, is what I'm saying, right? Like, what is Natalia outside of chaos? If we had a whole log without chaos at all, I don't think that would hurt Natalia at all. I think if we sat down and explored the actual Natalia character with chaos kind of quiet, I don't think that that's a bad thing to do. Same thing with Kerwin. That's kind of what I was looking forward to see in this log, is will them meeting each other, like, will them meeting each other's crazy, if I can, you know, just speak in layman's terms, will their crazies counter each other's crazy, right? Like, oh, she has this voice inside of her head, that's what's always there, it's kind of trying to wrest control. I've learned something on how to quiet my own mind, right? And vice versa, of like, oh, he has 3 entities always speaking to him. I only have the one, and he's got it kind of wrapped up and under control. Maybe I can quiet my own voice. Now, I will say, it does seem like Natalia, the writer, wants chaos to be around, right? They never, ever say it's like a crutch or a bad thing. They lean into it. It's almost like they, you know, they want that person to have this this quirk about them. I don't want to say it's a disability, because that, no, it's definitely a quirk. And Natalia leans into it, while Kerwin, you know, definitely seems like, you know, they want something out of it. And I think if we were to learn what they want, they being the 3 entities inside of Kerwin, I think that helps drive the story. But again, like, don't lose your character in this quirkiness. I always say it too, when people go from tier 0 to tier 1 and even into tier 2, they want to kind of rush in and use all of their abilities, and it's like the character fades away from being the main focus, and then we're always just talking about the abilities, right? We're always like, oh, I'm the Jukin user, so every chance I get, I'm going to show off that I have this ability. With this, it's kind of the same thing of like, oh, I have these alters, that is my personality. Like, no, keep the core of the character, you know, build the alters around them. If it's not something that needs to be resolved, like in Kerwin's case, I would say like it seems like they are pushing him towards something, like they want something out of him, and maybe they disappear. Who knows? But if it's not something that needs to be resolved, then there needs to be some sort of balance or quiet. Or maybe that is the quest for the character. Maybe that is their journey eventually, right? So it's not that it's a bad tool. It's just if you're going to use it, don't overuse it. Don't overexpose it. You know, I think Lux might have said this before of like, there are times where Natalia seems more interested in interacting with Chaos than the character in front of her, the other player or the other person role playing with them. And you want to give your partner something, right? And if you're just standing there kind of like, to make it seem more realistic, person A is talking to person B, but person B is just having a secret conversation with person C that person A can't see, like they're just standing there like, hey, how's the weather today? No, we can't do that. No, Chaos. And it's like, okay, I like your clothes. Yes, Chaos, they are complimenting us on our clothes. I don't know what, you know what I mean? And it just seems like, give your partner something to play off of that isn't your own kind of story going on. But anyway, I've been ranting. This was an interesting read. Again, my biggest takeaway: cut back on all the color. Try to make it a little bit easier on the reader to read, because it is very Technicolor right now. And if you think that your coloring is good and you want to give me the finger and keep doing what you're doing, I guess I will just have to accept that. But I won't waste any more of your guys' time. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.